Now having the opportunity to speak with MaryEllen Elia, and she is the Commissioner of Education. Good morning, Commissioner. Thanks for coming on the radio this morning.
Good morning, Bill.
By the way, for those that wonder, what does the Commissioner of Education do? You oversee some 700 school districts. Is that right?
That's right.
Yes. 3.2 million students, 7,000 libraries, 900 museums, and the list goes on. It's a pretty hefty job that you've taken on here, and at a time that it's been a bit in turmoil over Common Core and issues like that. But you've done a lot to, I think, put people's minds at ease.
Well, we certainly have worked to do that. So I'm really pleased with the draft plan of our Every Student Succeeds Act plan that we're put together, and we're very excited about getting public comments about that.
Now, is that basically the new version of No Child Left Behind?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that was passed in 2015, and so our state plan is actually out for public comment, and I'll be in the Syracuse area and Utica area today with Senator Griffo.
Yes.
And we'll be having conversations about the plan and getting feedback.
I like the fact, first of all, you're a Western New Yorker, right? You're from
I am.
Buffalo area, went to college there, and then you're as commissioner, you've done the job. You're a teacher, a social studies teacher, and also a superintendent of schools.
That's right. In a very large district, but as you pointed out, certainly not as large as New York.
Right. So tell me, explain this Every Student Succeeds Act. What does this mean? What does it mean for teachers, and what does it mean for parents who really just want their kids to succeed?
Well, you pointed out that there was a lot of turmoil in New York, and this law has given us the opportunity to really look at how we support teachers and how we work to support schools that are not having as much success with students, and what we need to do to help them. So the law passed by a bipartisan vote in Congress, and we are now required to submit our plan. We've been working for over a year with people from across the state representing organizations, school districts, our BOCES programs, and clearly parents, but most importantly teachers and practitioners, our administrators and all, to come up with a plan that we can submit that will help us in accountability in New York, but also help us to support teachers and families.
Boy, it seemed that is there any way to be able to evaluate teachers? And I have to be honest, my wife is a teacher, so this is something that I'm very interested in. To evaluate teachers and evaluate students, but not connect the two, because especially when the percentage of the student evaluation on the teacher evaluation increased, it created a great deal of chaos. So how do you evaluate the teachers to make sure they're doing a great job and that they're at the top of their game without putting the success of the student as the indicator for the teacher's success?
Well, I think one of the problems was that, as you pointed out, the percentage was just overwhelming, and it happened in such a short period of time. And that really resulted in people not understanding, first of all, not having an opportunity for teachers to really change what was happening in the classroom based on new standards and new assessments, and then to have it count so heavily in an evaluation. And the evaluation itself was not an evaluation designed to be supportive of teachers' improvement and growth, but rather very punitive. So, we have a lot of work to do to come up with a teacher evaluation that's supportive of teachers and gives them feedback on what they can do to get better every day.
I got to tell you that I'm very unpopular over this topic, but I'm okay with Common Core, and I know there's a change. The thought that we're going to elevate our standards. And because, we have a new world. Our kids and our kids' kids, they're going to be competing against the rest of the world for some of the best jobs that are out there. We really have to put them in a position where they can succeed. And I felt that Common Core, while the rollout was horrific, the concept is not bad.
Well, when I first came to New York, one of the first things we did was a survey on people across the state to find out where they were on standards and what did they really feel about how we needed to move forward. Yeah. And 72% of the people in New York that responded, and it was an open survey, and we had several thousands of responses. 72% want high standards for New York State students. Yeah. I think we all know that we want high standards for our kids. And as you pointed out, people had to take these changes at warp speed.
Right. Yeah.
And it just caused a lot of challenges. And besides that, the evaluation being tied so heavily to it, I think really caused the chaos that we face. So we're right now going back out. We have standards that we've been working on for over a year. Those standards were developed by teams of teachers, parents, and administrators, and they have been out for comment twice. They're out right now, and we plan to bring those back to our regions at our June meeting for adoption. And at that point in time, we need to take the time that's necessary to have teachers be trained and get professional development on how to implement the standards. And there are some changes, and there are some things that remain the same. But I think what's important, as you pointed out, I was a New York State teacher.
Yeah.
I have a Regents diploma myself. I wrote questions for the Regents exam. Teachers in New York have a long history of being very involved in the education process, and that's been a great benefit for New York over years.
Yeah.
And we've got to put them back in.
Mm-hmm. And let's be fair here. If you really look at some of the performances, some of the performance levels of students in New York State, New York is among the top throughout the country. Yes, we have to do more and compete with the rest of the world, but we have a very, very amazing base already. We're talking to MaryEllen Elia, and she is the Commissioner of Education. She'll be in town later today with Senator Joe Griffo in Utica, Manassas.
Commissioner, you had just said, talking about getting teachers more involved and getting them in there. The Utica School District, one of several poorer districts in our area, has an issue with having to constantly lay off teachers year by year because of inadequate funding from New York State. I want to get your thoughts on the funding levels for New York State, specifically in Utica. If you're not, I'm sure you're familiar with this problem, and you'll hear more about it today. But, a growing district with over 40 languages spoken by different students. We have a tremendous refugee population. But because of the school aid formula, it seems that Utica is often cut short, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Groundhog Day. Every year we're back at it again.
Yeah, and the district has to lay off 40, 60, 100-something teachers, and you have a growing district, and students with I don't want to say special needs, but they don't speak the language.
ESL students is a huge population in Utica. So, MaryEllen Elia, how do you solve that problem?
Well, that's not a problem that's easily solved, and it's not solved by the commissioner or the Department of Education. Those decisions and the funding formulas themselves, although we project how the formulas would allocate the funding and the work that's done basically on changing formulas has to come from the legislature and the governor.
How do you
and we know we have pointed out that there are areas within the state that are facing some of the challenges that Utica is facing. We, as the Regents and the SED, we requested last year a substantial amount of money to support our ELL students, and Utica was one of the districts that certainly would have been benefited from that.
Yeah.
We didn't get that funding from the legislature and the governor, so we're moving forward. It still is a major initiative for us, and we'll be working to support those schools in whatever way we can.
Listen, you've been around the state. You, by the way, have done a lot of traveling, and I think this is refreshing. You're getting into the schools, you're talking to people, and we really commend you on that.
Thank you.
But how do you solve the problem? And here it is. Let's just be honest. It's political. Take the more wealthy counties, the more wealthy areas with high property values around New York State. They're saying we're taking care of all of upstate New York, where houses are selling for $80,000 to $100,000. We've been taxed enough. So the legislators go in and say, we need aid for our communities, too. We've got to come back and show them that we cut the amount of money that we have to send when it comes to property taxes. So you have this battle that I don't know this is a tough nut to crack politically.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. I will say that there were some changes, not to the extent that would have really taken care of all the problems, but the governor proposed some changes to the formula that did put some additional funding in those high-need districts.
Yeah.
And that has been implemented based on the budget that was passed. So you will see that there was increases this year, but as I said, it's not to the level that's going to take care of the issue.
And, of course, a lot of schools feel that with gap elimination, which has now been taken care of, but the money that they've lost over the years, they feel they're owed money. So that money issue is just such a... And what do you say when... I love the cliche, which says money doesn't fix this problem. Well, without the money, you don't have the teachers, you don't have... Right? I mean...
It's almost the opposite in that the lack of money creates a new problem.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a combination of particular situations that you have in communities. So when you have a high percentage of students that are in greater need of basic skills to learn English prior to actually doing well academically, you see that those costs for the basic English and other things are really a critical piece of success for those kids. And we should be providing all that we can to make sure that those students have success.
Lastly, I'd like to just have you just address the fact that it's tough for parents. It's easy to look back at our own education, or you're looking at your kids' homework and you're baffled by the way the math is, and you just it is a struggle. But at the same time, talk a little bit about this new economy, the struggle that kids are going to have when they grow up, they graduate from college, and they got to compete with the rest of the world.
Well, I think that's really our plan. Takes into account some of the areas that we know school districts and schools particularly must be providing at the middle and senior high. A strong foundation in elementary is absolutely critical, but when students are in middle and senior high, they have to have the requisite skills to be successful when they go into a work environment. And many of those skills, whether they're going right into a career or whether they're going into college and then into their career, the point is those skills are different than what many of us learned when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And we've got to make sure those opportunities and those great programs that will help students to be able to make a transition into a job market, into the workplace, those have to be available for them. So when you're talking about technology, where do you go that you don't have to do technology in virtually any career that you're in?
Yeah.
And you have to be able to use it just like you use a pen or pencil.
We did
we've got to get there.
We did there was a huge emphasis on college education and doing a 4-year degree, and we forgot about the plumbers and the electricians and those trade positions. What's being done as part of your plan to offer that? There is a shortage today, and fear that we might not have the number of plumbers that we need or electricians down the road.
Well, I think that's an absolutely it's a critical area for all of us. We have to also kind of shift our thinking, and you're absolutely right. Many parents think my kid has made it if they go to college,
right.
But in many of our cases, a job opportunity when kids get out of high school after they've had training in high school and maybe they've gone on to a community college for additional training, but they go into the trades. In many cases, they can go on to college while they've got a job that's very productive.
Right.
And if you're thinking about the infrastructure of New York State, first of all, education is the most important infrastructure, but if you're talking about building the state and rebuilding roads and bridges and building buildings, all of those trade jobs are absolutely critical. And we have students that have higher interest in that than they do in going into college right away. So we really have to tap into the interests that students have, what they want to do, and make sure they understand the opportunities. In the healthcare field right now, there are jobs at virtually every level unfilled. And we've got to make sure that our high schools and our middle schools even start students thinking about the opportunities they have in fields across the full spectrum. So it's really, our plan has particular components that relate to providing career and technical education programs in middle and high school, and as well offering coursework where students get college credit while they're in high school. So we're really trying to balance those two areas and make sure that we really fill the needs of the students and their families.
All right. Well, State Ed Commissioner MaryEllen Elia will be meeting with education stakeholders and superintendents and school board members with concerns today at Senator Griffo's office, and then be available for the media. So you'll probably see it on your news tonight. I think it's great that you're getting around and you're meeting with people, and we appreciate your time here this morning.
Well, thank you. You know, I just want to point out we also have another meeting tonight at Henninger High School in Syracuse. So that's at 600 Robinson Street in Syracuse, and we'll be meeting there at 6:30. So I hope people can't make it, and they aren't clear on how to get to the meeting in Utica with Senator Griffo. Certainly, we would welcome them in Syracuse.
All right, MaryEllen Elia, thanks so much, and keep up the high intensity. I think it's good for education in New York.
Thank you so much.
Right,
nice
thanks.
talking to you, Bill.